Hi guys, it's still December 10, 2019. This video is on our fabulous economy. But I was upset when I ended the last video that I posted and I did not read the conclusion to this article. Documents prove Bush, Obama, and Trump all lied, sent troops to die in Afghanistan for no reason. And I want to read the end of this article. But you can stick in any subject, any agenda, any the economy. Let's, as you listen to the words, think about how we've been lied to and continue to be lied to. Outrageous lies. I mean, the lies have become so bold and so outrageous and so obvious that they're lying. It is like, ooh, what are you surrounded by? Because nobody seems to be responding appropriately. That's what I've noticed about Americans my entire adult life. There's not an appropriate response to tragedy, to immorality, to criminality. Why is that? Well, I think self-centeredness is part of that. When you really only care about yourself and your own, little life, and you're thinking about your own happiness and just I want to be happy. That's it. And your material success. You don't care about anything else. And yes, it is true. The only thing that is of importance and valued in our American society is material success. Money. Money. That's it. If Americans, on the whole, I'm not talking about every individual American, but on the whole, if they cared about, well, other people, if they cared about morality, trust, if they felt that it was important and valued honesty, we would not be in this mess. We're in it because we consented to it. Our silence, our refusal to hold accountable those who needed to be held accountable. When the lying became very obvious after we went in and destroyed with shock and awe Iraq, and then found out all of that was a lie. Yeah, my liberal Democrat friends were outraged and, oh my God, did they want to hang Bush and Cheney? And they said all the good things. But then Obama comes into office. And Obama continues the same policies. And he's lying. And what was the response? They didn't want to hear it. See, I thought they valued honesty and life, innocent people dying, and how dare we go into another country based on lies? No, they are really so stuck in the matrix that all of those things didn't matter. What mattered was their team. So Obama comes in, and he's essentially Bush doing the same things, but they didn't care. They didn't want to hear it, and they wouldn't discuss it. So honesty, the truth, all of that stuff didn't matter. But they claimed it did matter. But they demonstrated it didn't matter. So they spoke words, meaningless words, that never manifested in their behavior. So we're part of this lie. And we have to extricate ourselves from that. So, because politicians were hell-bent on weaving this web of lies, thousands of American troops lost their lives, tens of thousands of troops have been maimed, disabled, and permanently disfigured, and hundreds of thousands of innocent Afghan men, women, children slaughtered. And for what? Military. The military-industrial complex, defense contractor profits and stealing of resources. But Americans have known this. Why do we allow it to go on? I guess we feel like we have no power, or we're not doing it, or, well, it's not happening in my neighborhood, so I don't have to think about it. All right, well, inject in here, because politicians were hell-bent on weaving a web of lies about our economy. Thousands of Americans have lost their jobs, can't find another one, lost their homes, gone homeless, killed themselves. Same thing, lying. Lying is really wrong and should never be taken lightly. It is grossly immoral to lie. Immoral to not hold accountable liars, because they only continue lying, and the lying gets worse, and the destruction from their lies get worse, and it affects more and more people who don't deserve it. So now what are we living? We're living an awful lot of Americans who have already suffered the consequences of, well, lying, meteorologists lying about the weather, suffering the consequences of the Trump, these, well, bold, outrageous, and obvious lies. The economy is doing great. We will never, never, ever reverse any of these agendas, this track that we are on, unless Americans get honest and do the work necessary to become moral human beings. Don't ever forget that the only way the liar continues on is if people accept their lies. There's a dance between the two. And I'm really sick of it, because I know a lot of people who are suffering because of these lies. No one pays attention to the wholesale slaughter of innocents, much less the fact that we've been being deceived by every president since its inception. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then we all get, the outrage that we actually do express is at one another. And, it's all about whoever is, whatever team is in power, whatever team leader is in the White House, this guy or that guy, but it's never about the truth, Personalities over principle, principles over personality. you choose. Is it principle over personalities? Which means truth first. But most people do the Trump or Obama, or now it's going to be Warren or Sanders or Clinton. No, it has nothing to do with them. The truth is where the focus should be. The truth. Well, the lies are killing us. So we finally have a smoking gun showing that there was absolutely no way to win a war in Afghanistan. These warmongers knew it for decades. They all lied to us and continued to kill troops and civilians, and no one even cares. I'm not the only one who sees Americans, on the whole, the majority, not every individual, but Americans, thinking all these sweet, wonderful things about themselves, demonstrating how immoral they are. This news that Americans have been lied to for nearly 2 decades, that cost trillions, killed hundreds of thousands, ruined countless other lives, should have been on the front page of every newspaper in the country. Instead, after this news was released, the Afghan interest actually went down to a 12-month low. The impeachment hearings, yes. So, having been lied to for decades in a war for profit, the front page of most papers is news of the impeachment. Americans have been so brainwashed into the two-party divide that they are more concerned with accusations of political favors than they are about a vast conspiracy against them, which has caused immeasurable pain and suffering on a global scale. Congratulations, America. You've successfully become a character in Orwell's novel. Films, football, beer, and above all, gambling filled up the horizon of their minds. To keep them in control was not difficult. 1984. Still stuck in the Matrix? Oh, it's so easy to keep you in control. You're still stuck in the Matrix if you're supporting Trump. Or you're wanting one of those Democrats, all of whom lied to you. What is astounding is not only do Americans not respond appropriately to tragedy, they continue to believe liars. So, futurist prediction for the end of the world as we know it, and it is coming really fast. What is this? Not sure if I'm pronouncing this name correctly, but Roe Tizana, a future studies researcher at Israel's Tel Aviv University, stated that technology will continue to advance, and therefore so will automation. As this happens, the gap between the wealthy and the poor will increase as the middle class fades into non-existence. And yeah, if you're in the middle class, start trying to prepare yourself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, for yourself to no longer be in the middle class. And it is coming fast. The grim reality Tizana sees for our future, one without jobs or purpose. He argues that the jobs that will survive automation will be lower paying, unskilled, laboring jobs, and since machines won't need to be paid, companies can profit without having the overhead costs of labor. But what most of the futurists failed to mention is that without jobs and some sort of income, people won't have the money to help corporations profit anymore. It's a double-edged sword, but worth mentioning. Okay, so I thought about that. Look at what is happening with our Federal Reserve. Printing money, and handing it out to the banksters. Billions, trillions. Why do you think so many countries are experimenting with universal basic income? Why do you think they're killing off a whole lot of the population? Yeah, there will be unskilled, low-skilled, low-paying jobs left. But they're transforming this planet for their own pleasure. So whatever the hell they want to do, they'll do. You know, the decades of Americans making a whole lot of money for corporations, that was needed. It was needed, that money. They don't need us anymore. Because the job of turning this world into this new world order is at the end stage. It's not at the beginning stage. We're already in that new world order. So there will be jobs and there will be people who are paying for things, but they're bringing all of us down to a lower standard of living, because one of the objectives is they have to eradicate poverty. These are the sustainable development goals. Eradicate poverty by bringing everyone down to a low standard of living. And there will be a few that will have the comfort of what you will remember as middle class. They will be the bureaucrats keeping you in control. Boston Consulting Group released a report on global trends in future jobs and found that the jobs of the future are ones such as waiting on tables, cleaning, childcare, nursing care, and the group of job skills with the highest rate of growth after digital skills will be social services and education. The state and the economy are advancing by storm, but the workers are almost not benefiting from this progress and are left behind. It is almost a catastrophe. Almost. It is a catastrophe. No, they're not benefiting. Don't say almost, please, to Zana. This will all happen faster than we think. All the reports of the McKinsey consulting firm talked about technological progress requiring upskills and the ability to adapt. New World Order Insider, 1969, Dr. Day giving that lecture, exposing what will be happening in the United States over the decades. He spoke of only those with, and didn't use these words, I can't remember his language, but essentially, only those, it will be, that survival of the fittest. Those who have the ability to adapt to these great changes coming will survive. Most of us, certainly, the baby boomers will die out. For the younger generations, I hope that you're really thinking about what you're going to do for work when a robot takes over. We are seeing people moving from the middle class, For example, manufacturing workers whose factories closed down because the work moved to China. Now factories are returning to the United States, but this doesn't help anyone because those jobs are not back. They've been automated. Many of the jobs have been automated. But we all know that our economy is definitely on its way out. So Fed adds 72.8 billion to markets. Balance sheet moves to 4.07 trillion. Printing, free money given to the banks. Moves are aimed to ensure that the financial system has enough liquidity, propping up our house of cards, propping it up with printing money, giving it to banks. All right, it's about to get very bad. Repo market legend predicts market crash in days. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know. But this is from Sultan Pazar, highly respected apparently on Wall Street. Okay, well, I didn't really fully understand everything that I read here, but what I did understand was, well, countdown to QE4 is explained why the Fed, what he explained was why the Fed's interventions to date have failed to reverse the underlying plumbing issues in the banking system, manifesting themselves in a dramatic increase in treasuries at the biggest U.S. bank, J.P. Morgan. Okay. Our economy did not recover from 2008. It is artificially propped up with the Fed printing money, putting it into the system, but giving most of it to the 1%ers. So right here is what I took away as the most important. Because whether this goes down in a couple of days or a few months or sometime in 2020, it's going down. But what I found to be the most important, the decline in reserves, cash. The banks, the big banks, have almost nothing in reserves. Well, that is not good, right? Yeah, here. Large U.S. banks like J.P. Morgan that are central to year-end flows spent some $350 billion of excess reserves on collateral, leaving banks dangerously low on reserves. Okay, what does that mean? It means that if there's a crash and you run to the bank to get your money out, they don't have it. They don't have the cash to give you. Bank runs. Bank runs. So in reading a little bit of this from Bill Halter, if you want to see real trouble brewing behind the scenes in the banking world, look no further than the repo market, where banks get funding and liquidity on a nightly basis from the Fed printing money. Some nights, 100 billion or more is doled out to keep the system from locking up. Unlike the financial meltdown in 2008, hedge funds now make up 20% of the repo funding market. To me, it smells like a bank run in the making. Well, You run to your bank, and guess what? If they have any reserves, you ain't going to get what you think you have in the bank. So here, dollar dumps to 5-month lows as stocks, bonds jump on, Fed fold. Okay. Today, stocks went higher. Dollar plummeted. The rich get richer, and all the rest of us keep getting hurt, keep getting indebted. But I thought it was interesting, this little bit, which I'll let you listen to, just a few minutes, 2 minutes. Let's start with her.
Symptoms are discovered. Doesn't matter. We keep going. Yeah, Stacey.
I'm going to call this episode "Give Us This Day Our Daily Billions." Of course, that's the Wall Streeters, the big crybabies. We call them crybabies all the time, and they cry all the time for free money. And I realize that's why we have two economies going on. The real economy where the 99% live, and then the 1% economy where these bankers live and the corporate elite live. And there's never enough free money. They want more, 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 and more. And you can see that in the jobs numbers that came out this past week and a half. And what you saw is that it's boom times down there. It continues to be boom times. And you can see with the consumer spending that consumers are spending, life is going on. And yet, when you come to Wall Street, you see the nonstop interventions required, increasing, escalating interventions into the repo market. That's the overnight cash market. You see quantitative easing, more QE needed. You see interest rates that were cut again this week for that top 1%. So we have a tale here of two economies.
Without the ever-present constant drip of the free money, we would have a day of reckoning. And prices would revert back to reflect supply and demand. And there would be a catastrophic trapdoor opening underneath the U.S. economy. Because the U.S. won't do it for itself, China will do it for the U.S. in the form of announcing, as a surprise, 20,000 tons of gold and the introduction of a gold-backed cryptocurrency. This will kill the U.S. dollar, deader than a doornail. And it will be a Pearl Harbor type event. And it's coming in the next 6 to 9 months.
Okay. I will link below to everything. You can read the articles if you want. Just click on the link. You can listen to this full video. Click on the link. But he's not the only one saying that. A whole lot are coming out saying the trade war. The trade war is actually the war that is going to bring the global economy to a standstill, to a crash. America's trade policy will end up destroying the dollar. America's tariffs against China are already showing signs of undermining the global economy and will create a funding crisis for the federal government when it leads to foreigners no longer buying U.S. Treasury debt and selling down their existing dollar holdings. A subversive attempt by America to divert global portfolio investment from China by destabilizing Hong Kong will force China into Plan B to fund its infrastructure plans, which could involve actively selling down her dollar reserves and hastening the introduction of a new crypto-based trade settlement currency, which China is doing. U.S. budget deficit will then be financed entirely by monetary inflation. Furthermore, the turn of the credit cycle, made more destructive by trade tariffs, is driving the global and U.S. economy into a slump. The end result is America's trade policies have been instrumental in hastening the end of the dollar as the world's reserve currency, ultimately leading to its destruction. Was Trump put in the White House to bring this about? Is this his role? It may very well be, because the problems that we have had throughout my entire adult life that never got resolved, guess what? They're easy to resolve. But when you have these sick, evil, lying psychopaths, narcissists, puppets that are being told what to do. There are strings pulled by behind, the hidden curtain, but by behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz. Then what you have is just whenever they want to pull the plug or to blow just a little bit too hard on the house of cards, it's coming down. And yeah, my hunch, this was Trump's role. The trade wars didn't have to be a war. It's been going on for a very, very long time. Trump lies all the time. Oh, an agreement here, we're going to be signing it. I think they have another date to sign a trade agreement. It goes on and on and on and on. Just like every other thing that you hear coming out of Washington, D.C. to distract Americans from the real problems. Well, how come nobody mentions Glass-Steagall? Which Clinton, it was a Democrat, Clinton, who repealed Glass-Steagall, that actually protected Americans from these major crashes. But nobody seems to mention that. It's an obvious. You put Glass-Steagall back where that separated the commercial and investment banks. Separating them, commercial banks could not invest your money. Clinton allowed risky investments of your money in commercial banks. But nobody ever seems to think, well, we should really just reinstate Glass-Steagall. Because all of this is deliberate. So, yeah, here. The Silicon Six are doing a great job avoiding taxes. Isn't it interesting? Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft. But 2018 revenues in excess of $800 billion. They have a combined market capitalization of $4.5 trillion. Silicon Six have avoided over $100 billion in taxes from 2010 to 2019. Okay, we've known for a long time. We have a two-tiered justice system. And the elite, they commit crimes, and they never have to pay for those crimes. But we, hey, you're jaywalking? I'm going to fine you. Yeah. This we have known. So, collectively, we have set ourselves up to be really just destroyed. U.S. productivity slumps again. I mean, manufacturing, productivity, employment, all of what you hear out of the Trump administration, it's just an abject lie. Jamie Dimon, it's really interesting. This guy said not too long ago, this is the most prosperous economy the world has ever seen, and it's going to be very prosperous for the next 100 years. Wow. Yeah, the consumer, which is 70% of the U.S. economy, is quite strong. Confidence is very high. Their balance sheets are in great shape. Abject lie. But on the same day as this article, you also had this, J.P. Morgan. And Jamie Dimon is the CEO of J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley. J.P. Morgan Chase. Well, okay, J.P. Morgan issues 2020 alert. Recession odds jump after the election. What? Well, I thought we were supposed to be prosperous for the next 100 years. Okay, Morgan Stanley cutting jobs due to uncertain global environment. Okay. See, the same people literally lie through their teeth. They contradict themselves in the same day or the next day. And where are Americans listening to this? Morgan Stanley cuts about 1,500 jobs. So here come the job cuts. Media layoffs, 7,600 job cuts at CNN, BuzzFeed, newspapers. John Deere, more layoffs coming, about 60, and that's added to the 110 that took place. January 6 was the announcement. Car makers announced 20,000 layoffs in a week as electric shift upends industry. And it's going to get worse. Yes, automation, the economy. Oh, that green economy? It's going to devastate the majority of the world's people, but Americans. And that, green economy, it's being implemented. Trump pulling us out of the Paris Agreement, words. Americans love to hear what they want to hear, but they don't actually dig in to find out what's actually happening. Disney. I just received this from a subscriber. Disney sued by labor union for failing to pay living wage. Employees have to live in their cars. So many are living in their cars, working full time today. Is something wrong here? Why? Considering that we sure do outnumber those who are, quote unquote, ruling us, deciding how we are going to live. We outnumber them. But I guess Americans have become so demoralized that they can't really stick up for themselves, and they can't make decisions that are in their best interests. They've become, that just bend over and take it. Higher taxes again? Okay, I'll write out the check. That is one of the reasons why we're going down, guys. Major freight carrier bankrupted, leaving 3,000 truckers jobless. And many stranded on highways right before Christmas. November, heavy-duty truck orders resume collapse, down 39%, weakest since 2015. Class 8 truck orders tumble in November, manufacturing slowdown. U.S. factories extend contraction. Manufacturing continues to go down. WeWork lays off 400, more than 400. That's on top of thousands just this year. Hundreds of layoffs hitting Shelby County and counties and towns, states laying off government workers, laying off teachers. Is it Cummins, the latest to impose layoffs? 2,000. General Motors to lay off 15% of salaried workers. Halt production at 5 plants. And Trump says the company should stop making cars in China. Yeah, because he knows Americans want to hear that. And it's sweeping realignment. Car makers turning toward electric vehicles. But meanwhile, consumer inflation rises. Okay, well, we're hurting. A whole lot of Americans are hurting. And I hope that all of you are doing the necessary work to change, to try to reach out in your community to help one another. Because this train, oh, it's got no brakes. It is a runaway train, and there's no stopping it. And the best we can do is really start changing ourselves so that we help those in need. Most of you listening right now, you will be in need. You might have strong families that will help you out. A whole lot don't. So, all links are below. 2020 is going to be one hell of a year.